Welcome back to my channel. Jumping right in, as you can probably tell by the title of this video, I'm going to be talking a lot about closets. I mean, I must love my clothes and things, because I didn't just come out of the closet once, I came out of the closet twice. To prepare for this video, I researched why gay people come out of the closet of all places. Well, this phrase didn't get popular until the 1960s, and it alluded to two different metaphors. The first one was stepping out into the arms of the gay community, and also a lot of gay men at the time viewed their homosexuality sort of as a skeleton in their closet. Why do I love closets? They're a bit of a safe haven, a personal retreat, where we can store our clothes and other valuables that make us feel comfortable. If you truly know me, you know that I can get emotionally attached to my things, and I can be a little bit of a hoarder. Why do I form emotional attachments to different items? Well, I'm going to say it's genetic. 30 years ago, when my dad started his law firm, he brought over a stapler, and over the years this became his favorite stapler. As a kid, when I used to go and visit his office, I wondered why there were 3 or 4 staplers on his desk. He always wanted to have at least one handy. But there was nothing like his original stapler. That one, the way it binded papers together, how it felt in his hand, and the sound it made, it was so satisfying. One afternoon, my dad picked me up from school and took me to his office before my afternoon Hebrew school. Now, I was bored and I was playing around, and I took his stapler and opened it up. And I saw that it had a very thin tin strip mechanism on top of the stapler. And I was curious, because most staplers I had seen before had metal coils. So I wanted to see how it worked, so I picked up the tin strip and BAM! I heard a huge snapping sound, and the entire tin strip formed a huge knot and tangled mess. I looked up in horror at my dad. He grabbed the stapler out of my hands and frantically tried to fix it. He yelled at me, he grabbed what was left of the stapler and threw it into the trash can and stood up and yelled at me, "I can't believe you broke my favorite stapler! We're going to Hebrew school right now, get up!" So I was pretty much at Hebrew school an hour before everyone else. It was traumatic. In 2017, when my husband Alejandro moved in with me and got settled, one of his first projects was to clean out my closets. Well, it sounds like a simple enough task, right? Well, it turns out I had 8 closets. So, one by one, he took out everything, we cleaned, we organized, we dusted, and we put everything back. My clothes, my towels, my cleaning supplies, my painting supplies, my childhood collections all got raided. I was prepared to throw out a lot, but he went deep, and I was emotionally challenged on some items. One of the items I had to pull from the donation pile was this hoodie. Now, why would I want to keep this? I mean, it's seen better days. I had a lot of good times in this hoodie. I had traveled to the United Arab Emirates and India and Alaska with this hoodie. It was my go-to hoodie for years, and I struggle to part with it. Now, when Alejandro sees this video, he'll be on the hunt for it, but I have an idea for how to deal with that later. Back to the subject at hand. Through elementary school and middle school, I noticed that I had a burning desire to fit in with the other boys. A few select boys, ones who were handsome and masculine and well put together. Now, I know I should have had feelings for girls, but I found myself daydreaming about boys, standing next to them, hugging them, feeling accepted by them. Due to the fact that I was painfully shy, I never really initiated conversations with them. But when we were on group projects together, my heart would flutter. I remember in 2nd grade, we had to give Valentine's Day cards to each student in class. My parents bought me Peanuts Valentine's Day cards with cute sayings on them. So I picked the best card, the one with Snoopy that said, "I'm glad we're friends," and I gave it to this boy who I was really crushing hard on. He sat across from me in class. He opened up the card and read it and scoffed to himself. I guess he didn't really view me as his friend. He just moved on to the next card. Heartbreak. In 6th grade, I met a new guy in class who I had a crush on. Well, I made sure that when we were on a field trip, he was in my same group. I talked about all my interactions with him to my parents, about how I thought we were friends. When I got to school each day, he was all I could think about. As middle school and high school progressed, and puberty came in and took full effect, I realized that I was hiding a big secret. AOL Instant Messenger, or AIM, was my generation's precursor to a social media platform. I had all my friends on there and family, and I would chat away for countless hours. Well, when I was about 15, I discovered that they had chat rooms, and sure enough, I found myself clicking on one called Gay Chat. Well, I met different guys from all around the US, and I learned a lot of acronyms and the lingo, such as ASL, age, sex, location. It was on there where I met my first boyfriend. His name was Eddie, he was 7 years older than me, he had his own place, he was a Christian, and sure enough, when we first started talking, we talked about fighting our homosexual desires together. But as we talked more and more, that aspect faded. Well, I lied to my parents about him and bought tickets to go visit him. So I took the Greyhound bus up to upstate New York and spent about 5 days with him. In person, he was very nice, though I was a bit uncomfortable at times, but I was enamored that someone had feelings for me and liked me. So by the time I left and went back home, we were officially boyfriends. When I got back home, I was happy, and I wanted my family to be happy with me. I wanted to break down that wall I had built that was my double secret life. And I wanted my family to find out I was gay and I had a boyfriend, so that way they could be happy alongside me. So one night, I had this burning desire to come clean and tell my brother that I was gay. So I did, and it was the first time I came out of the closet. I asked him not to tell my parents and told him that I would tell them at a later date. But sure enough, he kind of got freaked out by everything, and he went and told my parents behind my back what I had told him. So the next night, we're having dinner, and I'm just sensing this tense environment, and sure enough, my parents confront me. And they basically tell me, Justin, we love you, but you have a decision to make. You can either live this lifestyle and go to hell, or you can change and go to heaven. Some decision, right? This presented a dilemma. I was brought up very religious and strongly believed in heaven and hell. I had a pretty good idea of what going to hell meant, and I had a pretty healthy fear of ending up in it. On the other hand, I had found love and wondered if maybe God would make an exception for me. My parents asked me if I'd be willing to meet with my pastor, which I agreed, and they ended up also giving me a bunch of CDs and cassette tapes from Focus on the Family on the subject of homosexuality. My boyfriend was furious that I came out so quickly and didn't seek out a school counselor first. He accused my parents of getting inside my head and controlling me, and me just being a people pleaser and trying to please them. But for me, it wasn't about that. After meeting with my pastor, reflecting, doing some research, and bouncing some ideas off friends, I ultimately ended the relationship with my boyfriend to pursue a closer relationship with God, knowing and believing in faith that He could change me. I'll never forget it. It was March 13th, 2005, around 9:45 p.m. I had just finished talking with a friend on AIM, where I sat back from my computer, raised my hands, and asked God to take away my homosexuality. And something changed. I no longer was interested in dating guys at all. All I had was this urge to become closer to God and read the Bible. In the months that followed, God really spoke to me and revealed Himself to me in so many ways. My faith blossomed. I got connected with Bible studies at my university. I made new friends at church and shared with them my story. I went to 4 or 5 different church services a week. I went on a discipleship trip. I partnered with an organization to share my faith and my story with others through street evangelism. I went to the Gay Pride Parade in 2007 in Tel Aviv and shared with them my faith about Jesus and also my story. I was the most successful street evangelist there that day and got the most number of contacts, sharing with people about my faith and my story. Later, I ended up becoming the youth group leader at my church, and I gave sermons. I sought out the gay leaders at my university and told them my story. I went on MySpace and connected with guys and witnessed to them. For about a year solid, I experienced 0 sexual temptation, like literally 0. Then things started to shift. In 2008, one of my friends, who was also in the youth group, had a birthday party, and all the youth group went. And they ended up taking pictures that I thought were a little provocative and unacceptable. Here I was, striving for purity, and I felt alone in the battle. So I sat everyone down and intended to have a talk with everyone about these pictures and just try to rally everyone together to strive for purity as a group. Well, they didn't take it too well, and I got blamed for doing things out of order, that I should have gone to these specific offenders first. I was crushed, and these friends didn't want to hang out with me anymore. So here I was on a Saturday night. I was alone by myself watching TV, and that loneliness was crushing. I went to the gay chat rooms again for solace. I ended up looking for comfort and talking with a few guys and meeting up with a few guys. For about 7 years, I was stuck in this sin, repent cycle where I would meet a guy and feel guilty and delete all my apps and block him, and I'd be good for another 3 to 4 months and repeat. I tried to date a few different girls during this time. However, emotionally, I felt absent. I had no desire to follow through with them and ask them about how their day was doing, but I felt obligated to. And the more failed dates I went on, the more discouraged I was, the more I would meet guys on the down low. I effectively put myself back in the closet and slammed the door shut. Here, everyone thought I had overcome homosexuality, that I was just moments away from finding the right girl and getting married. Yet, here I was living another double life again, and if anything, things were worse than ever. I grappled with guilt and crushing loneliness, even when I was around friends and family. It especially manifested itself around the holidays. I felt like there was no hope for me to be happy, that there'd be no one I could find to spend the rest of my life with. I was effectively out of options. Girls didn't work, guys couldn't work, and the idea of spending the rest of my life alone was not something I felt capable of. I hid these internal struggles from nearly everyone in my life. I didn't know where my love life would end up and who I'd end up with. And I was afraid to find answers to those questions. As I hid these struggles from nearly everyone in my life, I felt as if I wasn't being authentic. I felt like I was being a shadow of my true self. And when people would ask me when I'd find a nice girl or that I should go talk to this girl, I would literally feel a sting in my chest. My heart was bruised and bleeding. I got connected with many gay Christians struggling with homosexuality during this time, and I had many accountability partners, both gay and straight. I became really close friends with some of these gay Christians who were struggling, and they pretty much became the equivalent of emotional boyfriends to me. Sometimes these friendships would get physical, or sometimes they would leave the faith to pursue a gay lifestyle. And as I was taught at church, I needed to shun and block them, lest I be tempted. So I did that and I blocked multiple people. And by 2015, I started to realize that I wasn't showing true or authentic love. My love had conditions, and I hated that. I got back in touch with a close friend who I had previously blocked, and went to visit him in Columbus, Ohio. He introduced me to his friend group, and I told them my story, and they were so kind and accepting and inviting of me. They asked me if I would be willing to go to a gay bar and gay club with them, and I said sure. And they were so great that they stuck by my side the entire night. I had a blast, and I learned that gay clubs aren't dens of iniquity, but they're basically straight clubs with more guys dancing together, with better music and better drinks. All my barriers and stereotypes were challenged and breaking. A few months pass, and one of my closest friends comes into town, who's also my accountability partner at the time, and things get physical between us. It was just for me the straw that broke the camel's back. I realized that I wanted something more serious, commitment, someone to go home to at the end of the day, not just a no-strings-attached hookup situation. For the first time in 10 years, I became open to the idea of having a boyfriend. A couple months later, I traveled to Chicago, where I met this great guy on Scruff. He loved Pokemon, he was into cartoons, total boyfriend material. But don't forget, at this time, I was back in the closet. No one knew I had even been contemplating the idea of having a boyfriend. So I came home, and I thought about it for a few days, I reflected, I prayed about it, and I came to the conclusion that I needed to come out of the closet a second time. I told my parents what happened, that I had met this guy and we were dating, and I was seriously considering making him my boyfriend. And they responded with several questions. How did I think God viewed this situation? Would I continue going to church? Why didn't I just start dating some more girls? Ultimately, they told me they loved me, that even though they didn't agree, they would still support me in my decisions. I also came out to a couple really close friends, But that didn't stop rumors from spreading, and ultimately people at my church found out and reacted negatively. That relationship didn't last long, but about a year later I ended up meeting my husband on a work trip in the Caribbean. Also during this time, I expanded my social circle in Baltimore, and for the first time in my life became friends with gay people in my community. As my relationship with Alejandro progressed, I realized that he was here to stay, and I really needed to start thinking about completing my second coming out, and coming out to everyone. Not just my close friends and parents, but my extended family, my coworkers, and other friends. I had one foot out of the closet, but the other was still hesitating. I was fearful to come out publicly. I didn't know if more people would shun me and reject me. At the same time, I was proud of my relationship with Alejandro and felt the call to be bold and brave, to be a positive force and influence in the gay community, and also a representative of the gay community in my personal relationships. In my experience, people fear who they do not know. I used to fear gay people, and lesbians, and trans, but today I have very close relationships with these people. I've broken down those walls, and I value those friendships. We learn from each other, we challenge each other. So, on June 1st, 2018, around 1 p.m., I was ready. I posted on Facebook that I had gotten engaged to Alejandro, and the response was overwhelmingly positive. It's taken over 30 years and a lot of hard lessons for me to get here, but better late than never. It's been liberating. No more closets for me. That being said, now that I've told you my story, I think it's time to let this guy go. This hoodie has seen me through many of life's challenges. It's traveled the world with me, and I want to give it to one of you guys. So the first person to DM me on Instagram with this emoji, I'll pay for shipping and I'll send it to you, so that way you can be inspired to live boldly. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I know I threw a lot at you, but please don't hesitate to send me a message or comment or questions that you have. I'd be happy to answer them. So, just as a reminder, don't forget to subscribe, like this video, hit that little notification bell if you want to be updated when I post new videos, and as always, stay blessed, my friends.